So we're looking at portraiture, and over the next few weeks we're going to look at facial proportions, so how the face is divided up into different sections and different proportions. And what you'll find is that the eyes are halfway between the top of the head and the chin. Then you'll find that the nose, or the bottom of the nose, is halfway then between the eyes and the chin, and the lips are halfway between the chin and the bottom of the nose. There are other facial proportions as well, and we're going to have a look at that too. So we'll look at eyes, nose, lips, we'll look at shading, we'll look at hair, and we'll really improve our skills at creating a portrait. It is a challenging thing, so we're going to do it week by week, and hopefully we'll get better and better. Now, the first page in your sketchbook is going to be a double page of facial proportions and features of the face. So we're going to start by writing the learning challenge, facial proportions, and the date at the top of a clean page. And then we're going to draw a box, 15 centimetres by 22 centimetres. And this is going to have our first face. That is going to be facial proportions. What I'd like you to do is to mark a cross down the middle of the box. And so you're going to go halfway, which is 7.5 centimetres, and draw your downward line. We call this the centre line of the face. And if a person is looking head on, the centre line will be where the nose is, it'll be the centre of the eyes, it'll be the middle of the lips. If a face is side on, like this face here, the centre line would come, it'd be called a T line, and it would come down the middle of the face on an angle, but it would still have the lips, the nose, and the centre of the eyes in line. And then the eyes would form the T across the top, the cross, if you like, across the top. So even if a face is side on, you can still use facial proportions. It's just that centre line is on an angle. But the T, the line that comes across for the eyes, is always at right angles with it. Don't want to confuse you, but that is something that's quite important. So once you've drawn your T or your cross, what did I say? 11 centimetres up. Yep, and 11 centimetres up. I want you to come in 1 centimetre. Why does that not look right? Hang on. Just needs to go up a little bit more there. Yeah. So, once you've drawn the cross, try and keep it light, because we are going to rub these out. You're not going to have a cross in the middle of the face, so we need to rub them out. But once you've done that, come in about 1 centimetre. Mark like 1 centimetre in from the box on each line. And then have a go lightly, if you use your wrist as a pivot, lightly at joining these lines up. And this is going to be, sometimes we call this like a rugby ball or an oval. This is just going to be the beginning of your face. Now this isn't anybody, we're just doing a generic face to help us understand the proportions. So this centre line, which is called a median line, is where we're going to put the eyes. And the eyes are easy to place if we draw 5 equal ovals. That's not quite equal, is it? I'm going to make them a bit bigger. So if we draw 5 equal ovals, and I'll be honest, I don't do this very often now because I'm used to drawing eyes and noses, but it does help when you first start. The actual eyes sit in those middle oval there. So that's where the eyes go. Now then, if you come down, like I said, from the middle line and the chin and go in between that, we can measure it if you like. It's 10 centimetres. So we can put that at 5. This is where you're going to put the bottom of the nose. Halfway between that is where we're going to put the lips. And then we're going to put the chin. Now the chin's a bit wider than the point that I've drawn, so I'm going to make my chin a bit wider, just to make it look more realistic. Rub out those lines now that I don't need. Now sometimes I use a paintbrush actually, just a clean paintbrush, because I find that when I smudge, rubbing away, I can sometimes smudge the pencil lines, which isn't very nice. I'm just going to make this a bit heavier so you can see it. Now then, if we draw the eyes, you can use your image here on the other side, the images of the eyes, to just have a go at drawing the shape, the corner, the eyelashes, and then the inside of the eye as well. There's always like an inner line and an outer line, and depending on the angle that you're looking at the face from is how much of that is visible. You then will go from the corner of the eye and the centre into the centre of the nose. And drawing the bridge of the nose lightly can help with the placement of the nose. So if you draw that line lightly and then the plane of the nose to the side, coming down, which then leads in to the curve of the nose, which comes down, and then the nostrils, which come up from the middle. The end of the nose is cartilage and is usually a circle, and then that circle is then shaded darker, and as the light hits the end of the nose. So a nice light end of the nose there. And then we'll add a bit of shading up from the nose. And what is often the case in a portrait is the sides of the nose come up, and then we find the eyebrows. Quite satisfying doing that, I think, because the eyebrows look really in proportion. Then, now under the nose, we have a kind of Cupid's bow that most people have coming down, and that meets the lips. It's a U that comes under the nose and tends to be shaded darker as it dips in. And it is really helpful then to draw the lips, because the top of the lips comes under that Cupid's bow, like that, and then around there. It's nice little proportions. And then if we come down from the centre of the eyes, that's usually then where we find the corners of the mouth. Now, if you're thinking that our person looks like he's got a really, or she has got a really big forehead, that's because the top of the head is where we put the hair. So don't worry about that. I'm just going to shade the middle of the mouth, because actually that's where we see the mouth coming up like that. And then the bottom lip tends to do the same, and then it's dark under the bottom lip there. We have shadow there. We also have the lips coming around and into the shadow here. Let's get my lips the right proportion. Telling you and not doing it myself. And then coming down there like that. we often have shade here, and then the chin is another plane. The cheeks will give you a plane. There's a plane here coming up from the eye to the side of the face, which will be shaded, and up here on the side of the face. Forehead too. So now we need to look at the hair, and there's some examples of hair on the other side of this page for you to look at, and you can use some of these if you like. I'm going to use the one that has a big sweeping fringe. Just draw the bigger shapes in first, that'll help you. Because those big shapes then lead in to the smaller shapes. And the hair comes around the face a lot more than you realise, I think, and around the top of the head too. So we have here our portrait starting to come into a real person. A real person with no eyeballs, to be honest. So let's give this person some eyeballs just to make it look a bit more realistic. Some pupil. And then the hair coming around and out of my box a little bit, but if you drew your box the right size, your box should now hold your portrait, and you can come out of it with the hair if you want to. Some hair coming around the bottom there and around the bottom there. And there we have our facial proportions. Mine's a little rushed. You should have a bit more time to practice.